Utah's #1 news station. This is 2 News at 5.
Well, anytime we have wind and then fire and then unburned fuel and then homes, it's going to be a very big concern.
Wind-whipped flames crawl closer to homes in Utah County, forcing the evacuation of more than 1,000 people. Good evening. Thanks so much for being with us for 2 News at 5. We do continue our breaking news coverage of the dump fire in Saratoga Springs.
Yeah, we're going to start off with the most pertinent information on this blaze. Here's a map of the affected areas where the fire is burning. You'll see it there marked by the flames. That red area, the red shaded area there, is the evacuation area so far. The evacuation center has been set up at Westlake High School.
We want to give you some bullet points now of the most pertinent information. This fire is being called the dump fire. It started yesterday, June 21st. More than 1,000 people have so far been evacuated. The flames have charred about 4,000 acres of land. Right now, the blaze is 20% contained. The cause of this fire is shooting related. Someone out there doing target practice. For real-time updates on Twitter, you can follow @UtahWildfire and search for the hashtag dumpfire.
All right, we do have team coverage for you of the dump fire today. Roxanne Bayanuku with the very latest on the blaze and the efforts to fight the flames.
And Brian Malahi is covering the evacuations for us. And Roxanne, let's begin with you today. What's the latest?
We just got an update as to how many people have been evacuated. Now, these numbers are coming from the city. I talked to the Division of Forestry. It's not their numbers. They're not sure how these were calculated. But what we're being told by the city, by both Eagle Mountain and Saratoga Springs, is that as many as 9,000 people could be evacuated from their homes right now. About 2,000 of those people, or 2,000 homes rather, coming from Saratoga Springs and about 300 from Eagle Mountain.
You're watching Utah's #1 news station. This is 2 News at 5.
Right now, for everyone to stay out, stay as far away as they can.
And for good reason, more than 24 homes have burned to the ground as fire crews try to get a handle on the Wood Hollow fire that's burning right now in San Pete County. Thanks for joining us for 2 News at 5. Another wildfire forcing evacuations of thousands of people.
Fire officials tell us that 1,000 to 2,000 people have been evacuated from San Pete County. We want to give you the very latest information on this wildfire. This particular blaze is called the Wood Hollow fire. 25 to 30 homes have been destroyed. The blaze started on June 23rd. It has gobbled up close to 37,000 acres. Only 10% of the flames are contained, and the cause of the fire is still under investigation.
All right, we've got team coverage of this wildfire for you. Roxanne Bayanuku, unfortunately, spoke with a family that lost everything in the flames. Dan Rascone with the latest efforts to put out the blaze.
And Lindsay Storrs has a look at what this weather will do to hinder firefighters' efforts. Roxanne, we want to begin with you.
It's a day that Chance Sackett will never forget, the day he got a second chance at life.
Chance was shot in the neck accidentally by his own father. Dan Rascone spoke with him in an exclusive interview. And Dan, Chance got home just in time for his birthday.
Yeah, he sure did, Mark and Shauna. He got home on Wednesday, just a day after he celebrated his 16th birthday. This is a day, of course, that forever haunts his family, but Chance isn't about looking back. He's about looking forward into a full recovery.
It's great to have him home.
16-year-old Chance Sackett,
I'm doing good,
is finally home again after spending 73 days in the hospital.
Some days were harder than others.
It was just a short time ago he was out on the wrestling mat, competing for Copper Hills High School at 132 pounds. But then his life changed forever.
Saturday, February 18th.
A day he will never forget.
I remember everything that happened.
That's the day.
Right here's his entrance wound.
Chance got shot in the neck accidentally by his own father.
This is the exit wound.
While the two of them were cleaning their guns after a day of shooting.
Cleaning and putting things away, and was holding the gun, and it went off.
I just remember falling and hitting the floor.
They were all screaming, and I looked over and there was a hole in the wall. And I said, "What's so bad about a hole in the wall?" And I stood up, and he was on the ground.
I had a ringing in my ears, and then I couldn't feel anything.
The whole time he kept laying there saying, "I'm okay, Dad, I'm okay."
No, I just knew I didn't want to die.
I kept asking everybody, I'm like, "Is he gonna be okay?"
A lot of sorrow. Things I wish I could have done different.
Amazingly, the bullet missed the spinal cord and vital organs.
I can move around.
Chance is making great progress. He can move his arms.
Kind of move this leg.
And his left leg. However, he can't open his hands or move his right leg.
I can wheel myself around.
But that doesn't stop him from being mobile.
Good.
There to give him encouragement, Copper Hills wrestling coach Jeff Humphreys.
To see him come home like this, I mean, it brings tears to my eyes,
A 132-pounder shot in the neck, in a wheelchair, and unable to walk, but not about to give up.
I can't give up because when I give up, I'll just lose it and I'll never be able to succeed in my goals, to be able to walk again and wrestle.
Chance still has a long road to recovery here. Doctors are telling him it could be a year or more before he's able to fully be able to walk around. But Chance has his eyes set right here, coming back to school here at Copper Hills High School. Wrestling season starts in November. That's where he has his eyes set on right now. Mark, Shauna, back to you.
And Dan, do they think he can make a full recovery?
Yes, they do believe that he can make a full recovery here and will be able to eventually walk again and use all of his, his arms and legs and everything else like that. At first, there was talk that he may have been paralyzed, but looks like he's going to be able to be okay here.
He's got the right attitude, that's for sure.
Fighter.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dan. A school resource officer in Provo is accused of inappropriate behavior and is on paid leave.
It's alleged that these questionable actions happened on the school grounds at Provo High during a party for a school employee.
Brian Malahy is live in Provo. And Brian, are the allegations criminal?
No, according to the police chief, the allegations do not rise to a criminal level. They are not lewd, that the officer was clothed. But here at Provo High School, in that birthday party celebration in a conference room, Officer Cody Harris is accused of wearing something that was inappropriate, and his actions, it's alleged, were inappropriate.
Everyone feels comfortable around him. He gets along really well with the students all the time.
Provo High, home of the Bulldogs. But a man who had been school watchdog is not on the grounds or in the halls.
Has anyone said anything about Officer Harris?
No, we really haven't heard anything about it. We just have another officer here taking over for him while he's gone.
I think they're keeping it down low. I know he's a good guy. I've talked to him once or twice.
Why was Officer Cody Harris reassigned from his post and put on leave? Was it a striptease act?
I wouldn't characterize it that way.
How would you characterize it?
Inappropriate. Beyond the duties of a school resource officer who's assigned to a high school.
The chief says he will not elaborate until after an internal investigation is complete.
I felt it was necessary to not only investigate it, but to place him on paid leave.
And the police chief says that investigation should be wrapped up next week. He wants to do it quickly. Mark and Shauna, back to you.
All right, Brian, thanks.
An F-16 crashes at the Utah Test and Training Range, and the pilot walks away unharmed. The airman ejected from the plane around 8:30 this morning while training in a readiness exercise with 13 other pilots. Flying at the range has been suspended right now as investigators try to figure out exactly what happened to the plane. A spokesman for Hill Air Force Base says that they're happy the pilot was not seriously hurt.
After that, everything's okay. You can deal with all the things that have to happen, but we are very blessed today that the pilot he walked to the helicopter and he's fine.
The training facility where this happened is 50 miles west of Hill Air Force Base. Results of the investigation won't be available for about 60 to 90 days. The last time there was a crash at the training range was back in June of 2009. In that accident, the pilot was actually killed.
A Tremonton woman says she was raped by two men while the suspect's child was asleep on the couch. According to the Standard Examiner, 44-year-old Santiago Cisneros is accused of attacking his 18-year-old neighbor on Sunday inside his trailer. The victim says she went over for a cigarette, and once inside, the woman says Cisneros and 46-year-old Gregorio Quevedo trapped her in the bedroom and then refused to let her leave. She was able to escape the suspects and was able to call police. Cisneros and Quevedo were both arrested and are facing several charges, including aggravated sexual assault.
The Environmental Protection Agency ordering a pair of coal-burning power plants in Utah to clean up its act.
The EPA says the plants are responsible for a haze that reduces visibility at national parks in southern Utah.
Ladd Egan live in southern Utah with more on the story tonight. Ladd, how bad is the pollution that's apparently caused by these coal power plants?
Well, the power plants we're talking about are in Emery County, but the Environmental Protection Agency says that the smog that they produce casts a haze over much of southern Utah. In fact, the EPA says visibility in the wilderness here in southern Utah used to be double what it is now.
You're watching Utah's #1 news station. This is 2 News at 5.
Pain was getting worse. And within a couple of minutes, I decided I was in trouble and decided I better call 911.
Well, he called 911, but guess what? He got a busy signal again and again. Thanks for being with us for 2 News at 5 o'clock. A small Utah County town suddenly caught without 911 service.
As a result, one resident nearly lost his life. Dan Rascone is covering this story and joins us live. Dan, what went wrong here?
Yeah, Mark and Sean, according to the phone company that actually handles the phone system there in the small town of Goshen, they had a circuit go down in that area. They say they had no idea this circuit had gone down. That shut down the 911 system just when one resident was trying to get in a life and death situation.
It was really scary.
A taste of death for 63-year-old Orville Giroux. Orville is one of the 900 residents here in the small farming town of Goshen on the south end of Utah County.
And where did it hurt?
Right there.
One afternoon in March, he suddenly suffered a major heart attack. But when he went to call 911, all he got was a busy signal. Not just once, but 4 times.
I knew I needed help, and I knew I wasn't getting any. I started panicking a little bit because I was having so much pain at that point that I didn't feel I could get up.
Fortunately for Orville, he remembered a number to the hospital in Payson where he worked for more than 30 years. Soon help was on its way, just in time to save his life.
My heart stopped in the ambulance in my driveway before they could drive away. And they had to shock me and do CPR. And
I am concerned with every citizen.
Fred Jensen is the mayor of Goshen.
Why the phones didn't work, we never did find out.
The phone service for the town of Goshen is handled by a company called Centricom out of Fairview. They told me over the phone they had a circuit that went down, but say the system should have alerted them, but for some reason didn't. They say their engineers have now fixed the problem and added a backup system.
Does 911 work in Goshen?
Yes. We've run tests that worked on every station that we call from.
For Orville, fortunately, he knew what number to call to save his life.
I was blessed.
Now, the mayor says that this is actually not the first time they've had a problem. He says back in the fall, they had a farmer that had a hay fire, called 911, same kind of thing, a busy signal there. The phone company says they are not aware of that one at all, but they say this one is now fixed. They want to assure residents that they can call 911. If it doesn't go to the Utah Valley Dispatch, a 911 call, then it will be routed to another 911 dispatch center. The mayor and the others plan to hold a meeting tomorrow night, the council meeting, to meet with residents to be able to talk about this issue and make sure everybody knows what to do. Mark, Shauna, back to you.
All right, Dan, thanks.
It has happened again. A pedestrian who was apparently distracted is hit and killed by a tracks train.
Now, police say it appears this woman was talking on a cell phone as she walked near the tracks area and may not have heard the train coming.
Rod Decker's live at the 39th South Track Station. And Rod, this is just the latest in a rash of accidents for UTA.
It's a rash going back several years. UTA's got safety troubles. They're trying to address them. But today, a young woman was killed as she was crossing at that crosswalk over there on the south side of the street.
The driver started just like honking at her, but she didn't listen, so she hit the side of the train.
It could have been avoided.
The woman was crossing the tracks at this crosswalk. The train honked, but the woman was on her cell phone and she didn't hear.
She was in critical condition. She was under the train for a while. They were able to extract her and transport her.
But the woman was pronounced dead at the hospital. The train driver saw the accident coming, tried to avoid it, could do nothing about it, and was upset.
She started screaming when she hit her, like really scared, and then she was just in shock.
The train blocked the track for more than 2 hours while investigators tried to find out exactly what happened. Passengers were bussed around the closed portion of the tracks. UTA has taken safety measures, but still, the mass transit company has more accidents than it should.
Yeah, we're very alarmed at the trend. Just in the past a little more than a week, this was the 3rd pedestrian incident that we've had.
Now, UTA's been trying hard to fix these things. It isn't working very well. They're going to have to rethink. Back to the studio.
All right, Rod, thanks so much.
A Colorado man in the hospital after a hang gliding accident at Point of the Mountain today. The 66-year-old man was flying erratically just before crashing into the ground. Witnesses say he was unconscious and then flown to Utah Valley Regional Medical Center. Hang gliding instructors out in that area say they tried to get a hang check from the man before he took off with his rig, but he refused. Those instructors think possibly he was not hooked in properly to the glider.
This is an entirely preventable accident, and just the fact that he's going in to the hospital in a helicopter right now, if he was not hooked in, then he is very lucky to not be dead.
Well, officials still say they don't know the exact cause of that hang glider crash today.
Accused cop killer Matthew Stewart was in court in Ogden today. He's accused of killing Ogden police officer Jared Frankham back in January and attempting to kill other officers. While police were trying to serve a search warrant to his home, Stewart is also accused of aggravated murder of Officer Frankham and attempted aggravated murder of 7 other officers stemming from that incident. Officers were serving a search warrant when Stewart allegedly started firing shots. He will be back in court on July 18th.
Testimony now has wrapped up in the voyeurism trial against Steve Powell.
Powell's estranged daughter, Jennifer Graves, was the last witness for the prosecution. Chris Jones joins us live from Tacoma, Washington. And Chris, is court done for the day then?
It's done for today. The prosecution and defense have both wrapped up their arguments. There will be no more testimony. Next in this process, of course, will be the jury. They will get this case sometime tomorrow. That after they are delivered the instructions by the judge, and then also the closing arguments. Meanwhile, the family of Susan Cox Powell says they're not happy at the way this trial unfolded.
Pretty simple.
The name of Susan Cox Powell has been mentioned sparingly during this voyeurism trial, and for her family, that is simply not enough.
We believe that she's a big part of this, and she was certainly a victim.
Susan's father-in-law, Stephen, is accused of taking hundreds of pictures of 2 girls, ages 8 and 10, in various stages of undress. They lived across from him in 2006. He also allegedly took sexually explicit pictures of Susan, but the judge ordered virtually all of that evidence about her tossed out.
His obsession with her, was a big part of that involving. So I don't see how they can exclude it. I think they're being way too cautious about not having her mentioned because they don't want to prejudice the jury in any way.
Last year, police searched Powell's home. Josh Powell was living there at the time. They were looking for evidence that might have led to answers about Susan's disappearance. Instead, they found Powell's alleged voyeurism stash.
Without the investigation of my daughter's disappearance, they wouldn't have any evidence. They would never gone in the house.
Susan's father is convinced that Stephen will be found guilty of those voyeurism charges. He hopes perhaps jail time will loosen Stephen's lips.
Steve and Josh have been, over the last 2 years, done nothing but avoid answering for the things they've done.
So tomorrow is jury instructions. The judge will tell the jury what they are supposed to consider as they decide whether or not Stephen Powell is guilty of 14 counts of voyeurism. The defense team today tried to get 12 of those voyeurism charges tossed out. The judge said he wasn't going to do that. Tomorrow is the day that we will find out the fate for Stephen Powell. Back to you.
All right, Chris, thanks so much.
Search teams from Mexico in Utah trying to prepare for some catastrophic events like earthquake, maybe terrorist attacks. The Utah Task Force 1 has canines that are certified to find survivors who may be trapped inside of rubble. Search teams call it live recovery. Canines spend years training to be certified in this. Today, their skills were all put to the test.
So anytime we get an opportunity to train with anyone from another system, another country, it's a great opportunity for all of us.
Right now, there are only 28 canine teams scattered across the country that can do this type of work. Utah has one because of our potential to have a big quake that would cause significant building damage.
You're watching Utah's #1 news station. This is 2 News at 5.
I had no idea it was coming today.
This is McGarry's class. A Utah soldier surprises his children when he shows up to their school while they think he's serving overseas. It's a heartwarming and tearful family reunion you'll only see on 2 News. Thank you so much for being with us for 2 News at 5. It was an emotional reunion in South Weber today for 5 little children and their dad. Their dad's been deployed with the Air Force, but today he showed up at their school for a huge surprise. Roxanne Vainuku joins us now live with this story. What a sweet reunion for this family, Roxanne.
So sweet, Shauna. Major Matthew Hoyt has been away for 5 months this deployment. He was away for 7 months before that, so these kids are missing their dad. Well, he was supposed to come home at the end of the month. He came home early. And 2 News was there when these 5 little kids saw their dad for the first time in a long time.
This is a day when we honor those who have served in our military.
When South Weber Elementary School held its early Memorial Day assembly,
We probably have some boys and girls out there whose parents might be serving in the military right now.
they called all the children from military families to take the stage.
Maybe your moms, maybe your dads, maybe your cousins.
All 5 Hoyt kids proudly took their place.
Kenny, Amber.
The Hoyts know very well what it's like to have a loved one serving.
I'm so proud of my dad, and he's been a great example to me.
Olivia, Kaya, Amber, Kenny, and Sammy haven't seen their dad in months.
They've been thinking that I wouldn't get home until the 31st of May.
What they don't know is that this message from their dad
Hi, sweethearts.
isn't a recording like they've been told.
I miss you so much.
Their dad's right behind that curtain.
I had one favor I wanted to ask you guys.
He's about to give them the greatest surprise they could imagine.
Can you come give your dad a hug? Where are you guys at?
After 5 months apart this deployment,
I miss you, sweetheart.
Major Matthew Hoyt is home.
I can't believe it. Best surprise ever. I had no idea he was coming today.
There's no more counting the months he's been away.
I thought he was coming on the 31st, but he's home finally, and I'm just amazing.
No more counting the days until he comes back home.
Just to be able to see the reaction and the love that they have for their dad, that was all worth it.
Now the Hoyts will count every minute they're together, each day a blessing.
Got a lot of stuff to make up for us.
Yes, the Hoyt kids know what it's like to have a loved one serving, but tonight all they know,
Was that a good surprise?
all that really matters, is their daddy is back home.
I am gonna,
Just look at me right here.
I'm gonna just make sure that he stays home, never leaves again.
Major Hoyt is a family practitioner. He's based out of Hill. He doesn't know if he'll be deployed again or when he'll be deployed again, but he says right now he's just focused on enjoying the time he does have with his family. Back to you.
And obviously they're going to make the most of it. Those little girls were thrilled. All right, Roxanne, thanks so much. Well, a runaway teen in a stolen SUV crashes with another car and kills a woman. On Sunday, a 17-year-old ran away from a school for troubled youth, then broke into a home and stole an SUV. The teen led police on a chase through Provo and eventually crashed into the back of a vehicle that was carrying an elderly couple inside. The 65-year-old woman died. The man was sent to the hospital in critical condition. The teen ran from the scene of the accident but was quickly caught by police and arrested. Millions of dollars worth of drugs are off the streets after a massive meth bust in Salt Lake County. Mexican drug lords thought they had a customer, but it turned out to be the Drug Enforcement Administration. Rod Decker live in Salt Lake City, and this was a huge undercover operation, right, Rod?
Over a year. There have been arrests they've made before this one based on this undercover operation, and they hope they aren't finished yet.
The cartel was very, very secretive once it crossed the border. About an hour outside of Salt Lake, we received a phone call.
Drug enforcement undercover agents pretended to be big drug buyers, and when the Sinaloa Mexican drug cartel delivered, the agents grabbed the drug runners and 57 pounds of almost pure methamphetamine.
All of this methamphetamine was destined for Salt Lake City.
These square ones were hidden in the roof of the cab of the truck. These round ones were hidden in a PVC pipe. This is the end of a long-term successful undercover operation for the DEA. In all, they got 125 pounds of methamphetamine, 7 pounds of heroin, and $500,000 in seized assets. They hope to catch kingpins in Mexico.
Through this undercover operation, we've identified command and control elements within Mexico that we're anticipating indicting him down the road, and that will put a crushing blow on this cell of the Sinaloa cartel.
So they've got a lot of drugs on a bus at 10 p.m. last night. It's recent. They've done some arrests before. They hope some arrests continue to come. They're not telling all the details of this operation. They won't say who they arrested or even how many people they arrested last night. But this is a good day for the DEA. Back to the studio.
Getting those drugs off the streets. All right, Rod, thanks. A massive landslide shut down the roads 6 months ago, making cabins and agricultural land above Cedar City inaccessible. But now, just in time for Memorial Day weekend, road crews in southern Utah will open up a dirt road bypass on State Route 14. Ladd Egan live in southern Utah with the story. And Ladd, this is really welcome news for those who use that road often.
Oh yeah, it's great news for them, especially for the ranchers, the homeowners, or the tourists that have been taking a 2-hour-long detour to get around this rock slide. Now, they should open up a dirt road this weekend, but just as things are looking promising, there was a new rock slide over the weekend, and that has engineers worried. Weeks of non-stop digging and dumping. And finally, workers have cut through the massive rock slide.
It was over 100 feet deep.
The October 8th slide destroyed a half-mile of State Route 14, leaving behind a mountain of dirt and rocks as big as houses. The slide shut the canyon completely, cutting off tourism dollars in places like Duck Creek Village.
It was a tough winter for them. Not a lot of snow, and typically they get snowmobilers.
We've got the mild venison stick.
Timothy Hansen sells wild game jerky at the mouth of the canyon. He has to break the bad news to car after car.
Well, a lot of people want to know, where do I go around? Where do I go to? What's the next route?
He's hoping business picks up this Memorial Day weekend as UDOT opens the canyon for holiday travelers.
Well, I'm sure we're going to have a swell of people, a flow of people just going to want to go enjoy that ride.
While the actual highway isn't finished, crews are preparing a dirt road passage.
Yeah, if you've got a vehicle, you should be able to make it through.
But one thing threatens the plan. This past weekend, another part of the mountain gave way, sending trees and rocks onto the road. UDOT says it secured more money to stabilize that part of the mountain as well.
We're going to be watching that very closely, because that could be a determining factor on whether or not we can get people through safely.
This dirt road will open 3 p.m. Thursday and stay open all Memorial Day weekend, and it will shut Tuesday morning. After that, UDOT does plan to open it up in the overnight hours so that ranchers can get their livestock through to get up to some grazing grounds. But Shauna, all this depends on that area that's moving again. They're going to monitor it and make sure that it's not going to cause a safety problem. Back to you.
All right, Ladd, thanks. Those 2 extra seconds it takes to put on your seatbelt could save your life. The Utah Department of Public Safety wants to reduce the number of deaths on Utah roads, so it's teaming up with other law enforcement authorities in a campaign to raise awareness of the life-saving importance of wearing your seatbelt.
The goal is to get the motorists, passengers to buckle up every trip, every time.
The Click It or Ticket campaign promises more officers out and about during these next 2 weeks to check for seatbelts. The campaign continues from now until June the 3rd, just in time for all those Memorial Day travelers. Organizers say it's Shark Tank meets American Idol. We're talking about a major contest going on right now at the Salt Palace. It's called Grow America. Dan Ruscone live at the Salt Palace now. We're talking about a lot of money at stake, Dan.
Yeah, we really are, Shauna. We're talking about $250,000 here at stake. So there's a lot of competition, a lot of people here. We're inside the Salt Palace where it's happening just behind us. The final show here. We started with more than 1,000 contestants here. They narrowed it down to 100 this morning, and now they're down to 12.